Welcome to Out of the Box with Christine. Are you willing to step into your greatness? Are you ready to shine? Well, get ready, Truth Seeker. You're in for an amazing ride. And now, here's the host of the show, Christine Blosdale.
Welcome back to Out of the Box with Christine. I am your host, Christine Blosdale, your expert authority business coach who helps women in business and entrepreneurs spread the word about their business through podcasts, social media, videos, and the like. And this podcast, Out of the Box with Christine, is my way to bring amazing people to you to share their wisdom and to help you be a bit more conscious in your day-to-day activities. And my guest today is a phenomenal woman. She's a health and wellness practitioner and educator, Dr. Sandra Scheinbaum, who is passionate about transforming our healthcare system, preventing physician burnout, and empowering people to become the CEOs of their own health. Her experience is just insane. Clinical psychologist for nearly 40 years. You never know that, Dr. Scheinbaum, looking at you. She's an expert in positive psychology and mind-body medicine, and she's the author of quite a few books, and this is what really caught my attention. She's the author of the Functional Medicine Coaching book, Stop Panic Attacks in 10 Easy Steps, and How to Give Clients the Skills to Stop Panic Attacks. She's a regular contributor to Forbes on health and wellness, as well as the host of her own podcast, the Health Coach Talk podcast. So welcome, fellow podcaster, to Out of the Box.
Well, thank you for that great introduction. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So obviously you're passionate about health and fixing the healthcare system. What do you see wrong with the healthcare system, Dr. Scheinbaum?
Oh my gosh. Where
should we start? Right.
I'll take you back. When I grew up in the 1950s, you had your family doctor. He knew you. He knew your family. He knew your pet's name. And for me, it was a pediatrician. My husband saw a family doctor. And this person took the time. Now, he was very old school. We didn't have the state-of-the-art medicine. So where we have come, what is so wonderful about healthcare today is the incredible advances in acute care. So if you are having a heart attack and you go to the best trauma center, you will get that state-of-the-art care, which is great. And where we're failing, though, are dealing with chronic conditions, because those are conditions that are not suited to be treated in acute care. So that old model of the past, number one, that has disappeared. Good luck today, at least in the United States, trying to find a primary care doctor. By 2030, we're going to have a shortage of over 124,000 doctors in primary care. The older doctors are retiring. The younger people coming through in medical school are not choosing to go into primary care. In fact, I just came across a survey that was done at Stanford from their medical students, and shockingly, only 30% of this class wanted to actually be doctors. In other words, practice medicine. They wanted to be entrepreneurs. They wanted to go into high-paying medical research positions, for example. Yeah. So we are losing that. People are dependent on going to acute care. Well, that's fine. I broke my foot in the fall, and that was great. When that happened, I got an x-ray, and acute care was perfectly fine. But it does not suit people who need ongoing help. And those are the conditions that are continuing to rise. We're seeing incredible rates of type 2 diabetes. It's estimated that 1 in 2. In the United States, only 7% of adult Americans are considered metabolically healthy. So we have this aging population. People are getting sicker and sicker. We're seeing cancer rates rising. Autoimmune conditions are showing up in younger and younger people at the same time that we're having this crisis in healthcare. We've got doctors retiring, not going into primary care. And if you go into the medical system, you often feel lost, feel like you are a number. And what you need is what we had, that old-fashioned system back in the 50s where you had your family doctor. They actually made eye contact with you. They weren't just looking at their computer in the medical record. They were connecting. It's what we call bedside manner. They don't teach that in medical school, and people are only given 7, 8 minutes to be with a doctor in an appointment. Well, that's not enough time to really have a relationship with someone where you're going to focus on changing your lifestyle, because that's what's driving these chronic conditions.
Oh, and what you were saying is so true. And if you think about it too, like even the physicians of today, a lot of the stuff that, when you're talking about type 2 diabetes and a lot of issues that people are facing with obesity, it's nutrition. It's also about nutrition and what we're eating. And I think they get like an hour of nutritional training as as they're going through the ranks.
Yep.
So there's not a whole lot about that. And I do believe too, I think that with the whole COVID thing, that there was a bit of a brain drain where we had expert surgeons, open heart surgeons, nurses of many years, where they had built up a huge knowledge base, right? Doctors, primary care physicians, surgeons, all those. And when that COVID happened and with the mandatory vaccines, what happened was there was a great number of people who left the medical field, who you can't replace. You can't just, in a year, we're going to pop out more, open heart surgeons. That takes decades to become a really good surgeon or a wonderful nurse as well. I mean,
Oh, exactly. And I don't want anyone listening to think that I am dissing the medical profession, especially during COVID times. We saw people going above and beyond.
Yes, we did.
These are caring people. They are burnt out. They are exhausted by the system. And what can really be so helpful are health coaches, because they can be that new primary care, because primary care is lifestyle first. And so cutting down on the burden of these medical doctors, if you had a health coach who is really that person who is your ally, who is by your side, who's going to help you feel empowered to take charge of your health, help be that advocate for you through the medical system, and help you feel that you can get started on making some of these lifestyle changes, hold you accountable. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, then ultimately your demand for medical services is decreasing. And we have data to show that very thing.
It's preventative.
Yes,
exactly. It's preventative, right? Exactly. If the United States and governments around the world sunk a little bit of money into the preventative aspect of health, they would save themselves a lot of money at the other side, right? Because
absolutely
invest a little bit. It's because it's not so hugely expensive. It's less expensive to invest in the preventative than to deal with all of the emergency stuff that happens if you don't deal with the preventative stuff, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so you train people to become health coaches, or do you rise them up through the ranks so that they can get out there in the world and help people?
Exactly. So we're a remote online school, and we train people to become health and wellness coaches. What is so cool, what I love so much about this profession is how accessible it is. That means that we have people who have come from a whole variety of careers, and they are now becoming health coaches. Either they're doing coaching on the side, or they're retiring, they're preparing for what we call their retirement years, or they are burned out and exhausted, perhaps in their corporate position. We've had corporate bankers, for example. We have meteorologists. She had a really great career as a meteorologist in a major city, and she became a health coach. So this is a focus on doing something that is going to be fulfilling, to give you meaning and purpose, because when you are coaching another individual, not only does that individual, you see their change process, and it is so rewarding, but you are personally transformed as well. So coaching actually came from what I had studied and practiced for so many years. It was humanistic psychology. And that is where the client, we call them clients and not patients because it's not medical, and they're in the driver's seat. And that helps them to feel very, very empowered. So they choose what they want to work on with their coach. The coach is there to support them. They can provide education as needed. And they can be that bridge of communication between that person and their doctor, and help to negotiate in terms of, let's say, more testing is needed, and the coach can help people feel empowered to ask for those services.
I love that. I appreciate that so much. And there's so much need for that right now. And you also, one thing that you are, well, you're an expert in by now, after so many years as a psychologist too, is dealing with people with anxiety and ADHD and with that anxiety and depression that is rampant right now. Also, people with autism have sometimes a difficult time fitting in or feeling like they fit in. Can you talk about that? Because I think that's something that I think an ADHD coach would be like great,
Yes,
because
exactly.
I know someone very close to me who has ADHD, and it drives her crazy sometimes. She gets so frustrated, but somebody that understands it would also be very helpful to talk to, right?
Yes. So let's start there. And I want to share a story. Dr. Mark Hyman, he is one of the leaders in functional medicine. He has taught for us. He's a big proponent of health coaches, especially functional medicine health coaches. And he was given a major award a number of years ago. I was there. And for his acceptance speech, he said, and he was the co-founder of the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine. He's like I think he's going on 20-time New York Times bestselling author. And he said, I want to thank my ADHD for getting this award, because if I didn't have ADHD, I would still be a practicing family physician, in a small office, and that's where I would be. But because of my ADHD, because that allowed me to, in other words, I move fast. I change what I'm doing. I don't stay stuck in the same job. That would be so hard for people with ADHD, myself included. I started out as a school teacher, and I want to thank my ADD, because if I didn't have that, I would be retired now on a pension as a school teacher. Instead, I went from there. I got a doctorate in psychology. I was a health psychologist. I had other ventures that I did, and eventually founded FMCA. So it is think of ADHD in terms of not what's broken, not what's wrong, but what is right. And so impulsivity, no, I call it zest.
I love that.
And zest is a character strength. It's
Yes.
full of life, full of energy. Not being able to sit still, well, that's great. It's great physically. In fact, they've done studies that shows that people who are, strumming their fingers, who are tapping their foot, who are moving around a lot, that is good for your health. You want to have more movement going on throughout the day. So I can't sit. If I'm sitting in a lecture, I always have to be getting up, standing in the back. And so those are all ADHD traits. Creativity, highly associated with ADHD. Yeah. So it's a strength focus. So you focus on what is right. Similarly with autism, what is right with you. And so coaches work on that model to show what's strong with you. What strengths do you have? And that's what you focus on. And you take those traits that you might think, well, this is what's doing you in, but how can they be looked at from a different perspective? The opposite. What are the advantages of having these traits? And that's very empowering, and it lifts the depression, because it's not what's wrong with me. Why can't I do everything right? Often using humor as a way. So I'm so bad at reading directions. If I have to follow step-by-step directions, like in a recipe, or I used to sew when I was younger, I always have to rip it out, because I would impulsively jump in and I didn't read the directions. So often you just learn to laugh at these foibles and say, okay, but sometimes impulsivity, I'm good at improv, being able to think on your feet. Preparing for talks. Sometimes I just wing it, and it comes out much better than if I had spent a long time preparing. So you learn to work with what could be an issue, and you turn them into what can be your advantage.
Oh, that's, but it's hard when you're in it. That's the thing. My wife is like, when you were talking about skipping the things, it's whenever she's, I've got something I'm going to cook. I'm going to make this thing, and I've got the recipe. She'll send me the recipe, and she'll go get these ingredients. I go and I get the ingredients, and then when it comes to making it, I'll go, did you follow the recipe? Oh, I'm just doing my own thing on this. I go, no, you need to follow the recipe because you're going to have a certain things with the things. Or I'll say, how long is it supposed to cook for? And she'll go, I don't know. When it's done, it's done. And okay, all right. There's a TikTok channel where it's a couple, and there's the wife has ADHD, and the husband is, I don't know, neurotypical. I guess I don't know whatever the title is.
Yeah.
But it's so beautiful because it's showing, what as a couple what you go through together, and how the neurotypical person can do better to understand that person, right? And to understand their the quirks, the things that they need to understand a bit more if they want to stay married, if they want to be in a good relationship. And I think it's beautiful. It's actually, and they have fun with it as well.
I love that. And you brought up something that I think is really important, and that is it's we and not I. And so you find a partner, somebody who can support you. And so that example you gave with the rest, that's perfect. Like, you were the reminder. My husband, we've been married 53 years. There are times I remember once, because I get physical mail, and I'll just throw it in the garbage. Yes, and I don't know. Sometimes I don't even open. I just think it's junk mail. It's a solicitation. And so my husband, though, when he's cleaning out the garbage, he'll sometimes he'll look through it more carefully to make sure that nothing valuable is being tossed away, because he knows me. And so one time he pulled out an envelope and he said, I don't think you want to throw this away. It was a rebate check. I hadn't opened the envelope, thrown it away. So, but over the years, we balance each other, because I can be more spontaneous. And so I might encourage him to go out, try a new activity that he would not be up for doing. And so more you understand your partner. And so it's a balance. One person's strengths, the other person's weaknesses, but you support. So you become one. As a couple, then you make up a whole. And that is something we see frequently. That's how relationships work, as opposed to, because it can be the opposite, where the other person can be driving you crazy. Like, oh, he's so fine, for me, like, he has to go through everything, we get a bill he has to go through with a fine-tooth comb. He's so fascinated. I'll just more impulsively. And so it can annoy me, and vice versa. Like, how can you be so, impulsive in certain things? And I'll do the opposite with him. It's, learn to.
But it's true. You take the things that are good, because also, like, with my wife wants to try new things and likes to have lots of activities and agendas and, like, itineraries, where, it's like it's the weekend, and I'm the slower paced turtle, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, if it's the weekend, I'm thinking of, like, how I can enjoy it and slow down. And with her, she's like, I need to know what's on my itinerary. We need to do things. We need to plan things. We need to have, goals set. And I'm like, wait a second. No, but we do balance each other, because I get to explore new things that I would not do before if it wasn't for her, for her going, come on, babe, let's go. And physical activity is very, very important. I've noticed. I think it's the golden, thread through it all is that physical activity for folks with ADHD as well, right?
Very, very important. Yes, that getting out and moving. And that's where a coach can be very critical, can help you. You can have we're calling them now mental health coaches. And so rather than jumping to that conclusion, there's something wrong with me, I have an anxiety disorder, depressed. Well, a coach can help you what would happen if you went out and took a walk? How did you feel before the walk? How do you feel after the walk? And then you have that data to say, well, next time I'm feeling really down, I'll go out, I'll get in the sun, I'll take a walk, even if it's winter. That cold is going to feel good, for example, and ways that you can be moving, and ways that you can change your thought patterns so that you are not catastrophizing and thinking it's hopeless and awful and horrible.
There's something about that exercise too, with that dopamine and feeling good. I know that that's really important part of my wife's life as well. Is making sure it's 5 o'clock in the morning. She's up going to. I'm like, bye. It's winter here, so I'm like, have a good workout, darling. No, mwah,
Yes.
and you know what? The idea of having a health coach, having a partner to be with you throughout this crazy life that we have is really comforting. And is this something too that anybody can how do they find a health coach? Like, is this something that people can afford through their lifetime, or is this something that at critical moments within their lives they can maybe invest in this?
Yeah, so it can be, the price point can be like having a personal trainer, having a massage therapist, for example. If you're paying out of pocket for a psychologist, it's probably going to be less than that. And there's also a huge shortage of mental health professionals. That is actually a big crisis now. And so health coaches can be more available. And 9 times out of 10, if a health coach, the difference is they're not doing psychotherapy and they're not diagnosing you. They're not doing 10 years of talk therapy where you're coming in and getting stirred up by talking about how awful your childhood was.
Right.
But you are focusing on now, what matters most in your life and what can you do today to get there? And you set goals. And often those are goals in the areas of looking at the food you're eating, quality of your sleep. How are you getting? What is about your stress, your relationships, and then getting exercise and movement during the day? And so coach can be found at our site. You can go to our website, functionalmedicinecoaching.org, and there's a pull down menu, and you can go to find a coach. The cool thing about coaching is it is remote. Coaches are not licensed as mental health providers. So in the United States, they're not bound by state licenses. And so you can be living somewhere in Australia, and you can be seeing a coach who's in the UK, who might be in London, they might be in Saudi Arabia, they might be in the United States, and it's a fit. It's if that person is somebody who you feel comfortable with, and you may have to interview a few. Yes. And as far as making it affordable, there are many people do groups, and that I think is really special, where the community itself becomes the medicine. You help.
I love group coaching.
You are playing a part in helping somebody else in that group, and that is so healing for you. You feel so connected to these people. So that is often a way to go. And you can go to your doctor often and say, I want to work with a health coach. And if you are looking for a health coach, you choose someone who is board certified and make sure that they have graduated from an appropriate training program or an approved school for the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching, because that's the danger. Anybody can be out there calling themselves a coach, a life coach, a health coach, but you want to have somebody who has gone through the proper training.
And they can find those wonderful people at functionalmedicinecoaching.org. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll make sure we'll put that link in the show notes so that people can find that. And then if they want to become a health coach, then do they do the same thing? They go to that website?
Yes, exactly. And we need it. We need coaches so badly. And it is really catching on. We have the research now to back up the importance and that it really works. And it is such a rewarding profession. And again, you don't need a college degree. You don't need a background in healthcare. You need to be a good listener. And so people are really gravitating to this as something that, again, they might have been burned out. They were maybe in the corporate world and they say, I've had enough.
I've got a few clients that I work with, women who have been in the health field, who've been in the mental health field, and they got burned out because of just how it's run, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the stress of it, who would make wonderful functional medicine health coaches. So can people they can get training through that website? And do they have to do they have to be based in the United States, or can they be from other parts? No. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
We have almost 5,000 graduates there from all over the world.
Okay.
People and their stories. That we have some, like I was a while back, we had somebody, she was in Mumbai. She was the only coached in Mumbai. She's the only health coach in India. And fast forward almost 10 years, she's written books. She has a podcast. She's partnered with doctors. And this all came about because her daughter had eczema and nobody could treat it. She heard about functional medicine. So she started making some changes to her daughter's diet. Daughter improved dramatically. So she said, I got to learn this. And she didn't want to go to medical school, to be a functional medicine doctor. So she became a health coach in this a process of using functional medicine, which is basically helping people with root causes through diet and lifestyle change. And so she is really inspiring. We have so many stories like that.
Oh, this is wonderful. Okay. So we got, this is so good. This was twofold. We have people that need health coaches that now have the information. They're going to go to that website, functionalmedicinecoaching.org. And then you've got people who want to have a change in life, change in career, change in business. And they can also go to functionalmedicinecoaching.org and become a health coach. Oh my goodness. Yay. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Scheinbaum, for being with me today. And I also want to encourage people to take a look at some of the books that you also have authored. My goodness, we've got Functional Medicine Coaching. That's one book, Stop Panic Attacks in 10 Easy Steps. That I've got to get that. I think that's powerful because once you're starting a panic attack, it's pretty tough to come back to regular land, and how to give clients the skills to stop panic attacks. Thank you again so much for being with us today, Dr. Scheinbaum.
Hey, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And I want to thank you, wonderful listeners, for being with us as well. If you want more information about the coaching that I do, you can go to ChristineBlosdale.com and you can check out all the books that I've got. There's a new, I just remembered to remind you, Pod Your Way to Success, which was in paperback and Kindle. I just created the audiobook. So the audiobook version is available on Audible and Spotify and all those different outlets. So if you're interested in getting the audiobook, I'll have a link in the show notes as well. And as I always say, remember to think outside that damn box. Bye for now.